So I think we really need to stop calling these things phones. And let's just be clear. Do these things have phones on them? Obviously. Do they function as a phone from time to time? Yes. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we all know at this point that these things are not just phones. They're not merely exclusively a phone. These things here are Pandora's box. I don't know what we should replace the word phone with, but when you see the NPCs around you, and even yourself to a degree, myself to a degree, probably less so, but when you see everyone around you staring into this magical glowing box, they're not staring into a phone. Their soul isn't being harvested by a phone. It's being harvested by an abyss. It's being harvested by a slot machine. It's being harvested by this is like a louche farming device. This is spyware. This is a self-esteem destroying machine. This is an attention span destroying machine. This is, it's a data collector. It's a camera in your pocket 24/7 at all times. Everyone's walking around with a camera on them all the time now. It's a shopping mall. You can literally buy your groceries on your phone. You never have to leave your house anymore, really. Pretty much it's a mind control thing. This thing here is like literally mind control. A land of negativity that you can dive your consciousness into. These so-called phones are a whole lot more than just that. And we all know that. And most people don't even have any original thoughts anymore. Most of what they spew out of their mouth is pretty much just whatever slop their algorithm is feeding them. And when you ask yourself, what are they looking at on the phone? What are they doing on the so-called phone? What are they doing on the magical glowing box? Are they doing anything important? Like maybe sometimes, yeah, but for the most part, no. Most of the, normie NPC people like that are so addicted to this magic glowing box, mostly they're looking at AI slop. Mostly they're just scrolling on TikTok. Mostly they're watching meaningless videos, short form stuff. Mostly they're just consuming like brain rot. That's like a really popular term now, brain rot, and that's really true. And these things are rotting people's brains, mine to a degree and yours to a degree. And listen, I understand that, the invention of the smartphone is not all bad. I understand like it's one of the pinnacles of human achievement, and that's all true. And, a lot of these phones have great aspects to them as well, and really convenient aspects and stuff like that. But I think as we're all starting to see now, clearer and clearer as the days go on, that these so-called phones are very, very negative to society as well, and probably a majority leaning in the negative direction as opposed to the positive. A lot of this is just the internet in general, but the phones give us direct access to the internet basically 24/7 for the vast majority of us. And I know that not everyone listening is, glued to their phone 24/7, and I try not to be as well. I'm not as bad as pretty much most people. I don't even have really any social media apps installed on my phone with the exception of YouTube. And I know a lot of you listening are doing what you can do to try to not allow the phone, quote unquote, right, to control your entire consciousness and control your life like it seems like everybody else is kind of allowing it to do. But yeah, the phone is not a phone. We need to replace that word with something else. It's a computer in your pocket, a whole universe of potential self-destructive content that a lot of people are receiving. I watched a Dr. Phil episode on his podcast on YouTube, and don't quote me on this necessarily, but he said, I remember him saying something in the episode. He said that there was a young girl who was receiving self-harm content through TikTok. You know what I mean? And like, dude, that's really, really bad. Okay, that's not good. That's not good stuff. And this is being exposed to the younger generation. Like, we're talking about nowadays, probably most kids, I would say, have a cell phone or have a smartphone or have some kind of device or access to the internet from, say, the age of like 5. From a lot of these parents out here, that are, kind of allowing their kids to just be glued to a phone, which is, by the way, very addictive. I also, in this video, I do want to mention, I'm kind of all over the place in this video, but I do want to mention the documentary, The Social Dilemma. If you guys have not seen that, please do yourself the favor and watch that. And most of you have probably seen that and are aware of what that is. And basically, if you don't know what that is, it's a documentary where big tech insiders from Facebook, Google, YouTube, Instagram, all these different apps that we're all addicted to now, they are interviewed and they talk about how these apps and how the phone in general is, in social media, is engineered in such a way to addict you, to hook you. It wants to keep you attached to it like a drug. Social media is literally a drug, guys. Why do you think they call people that use social media users? Because they're a drug user. You know what I mean? Social media is a drug for the mind. That's what it is. And so again, back to the main point here. These things here, whether you have an iPhone, whether you have a Samsung, a Google Pixel, whatever it is, whatever kind of magical glowing box that you have, we really should be calling it that. We really should be calling it something else other than a phone at this point in time, because again, these things are a whole lot more than just a phone. It's a whole universe in our pockets. It's an entire soul-sucking agenda. It's an entire surveillance system. Another thing with these things is that the government or whoever the elites, whatever, are spying on us, listening to us through algorithms, through the phone, through our devices and all that kind of stuff. I think that's pretty established, and most people are aware of that now, and I think that's true. So again, that's just another example of how these devices here are a whole lot more than just a phone. And that's the whole point here. I think we need to come up with some other word to call these things, right? Because when you think of a phone, you think, when you hear the word phone, at least for me, I think of like an old rotary phone, like one of those white, big rotary phones that you pick up and it's like a big thing. You know what I mean? That's a phone. A flip phone from like the 90s or the early 2000s, that's a phone. You know what I mean? Or like one of those like Pantech phones, or one of those Motorola's where it's like has a flip, like a slide out keyboard. You guys remember those from like the early 2000s, 2010s? That is a phone. But these are not phones. These are a whole lot more than that. So, one final point that I wanted to add to this video is, I don't know how many of you listening are religious or spiritual thinkers or anything like that, but if you guys know the story in Genesis, the Adam and Eve story, where, the apple, they bite the apple off of the tree. And I find it kind of funny that with the company name that Steve Jobs decided to go with for the iPhone was Apple. And if you look at their logo, it's just that. It's someone biting out of an apple, So do with that information what you will, do with that correlation what you will. But I just wanted to add that in because I thought that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of the video, guys. I don't want to drag this one out too long. That's kind of my point here. That's what I'm getting at. Let me know your perspective in the comment section. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know what you guys think of these so-called phones, if we should be referring to them as something else now. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and enjoy the rest.